Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kevin from FLOAT STL. We're here in St. Louis, Missouri, and just wanted to talk with you a little bit about one of the most often questions that we receive. Here at FLOAT STL, we offer float experiences in both float pods and float rooms. And oftentimes, when people are coming in for their first floats with us, they ask, which one should I float in? Which one is better? Do you have a preference? Questions like this. And it's difficult to know which one you may prefer, not ever having had a float experience, but it's also a personal preference. So it can be difficult for us to provide advice or suggestions, but we do provide some information that oftentimes helps people, I think, choose the one that is most helpful for them. So the main difference between the float pod and the float room is just going to be the shape and the size of the design. So one isn't necessarily better than the other. One isn't necessarily more advanced or more, sensory deprived. It's really just about the container and how that individual feels in the container. So oftentimes when people report that they feel like they're going to be experiencing claustrophobia or they're not comfortable with enclosed spaces, uh, we've seen that those individuals tend to feel less comfortable with the idea of the float pod. And the float pod, it's really spacious. There's a lot of room in there, but it seems the idea of closing the lid down on top of you is something that tends to leave people with some discomfort. Um, so when someone expresses that to us, we oftentimes recommend for them to float in one of the float rooms. The difference in the float room, it's more of a kind of a rectangular, cabin type of a device. So there's a lot of airspace above you as you're laying on your back. The float cabins or the float rooms here, they have about 7 feet of airspace above you. So you're just floating on that 10.5 inches of Epsom salt solution, but there's a lot of airspace. So you enter in through a side entry door, similar to like a glass shower door, something like that, that opens this way. And then you step into the device, and then you lie down on your back on the water. And there's plenty of space, in front of you that way. Similarly, in the float pod, there's also plenty of space above you, but it's more of this kind of egg-shaped device where you're going to be lifting up a lid that kind of clamshell hinges in the back, and then you would step into the device, grab that handle, and close it down, and kind of lie back. Um, so also, I think the float pod tends to have maybe more of a futuristic or kind of spacey vibe to it. It's kind of an orb. Um, some people refer to it as being womb-like or cozy. So sometimes people gravitate towards that. Also, sometimes people feel like the closeness of the pod, being able to reach out and kind of touch the sides and feeling some of that closeness feels warm to them, not necessarily in a temperature sense, but just in a kind of maybe an emotional sense. There's a warm closeness feeling to it. So that's kind of what we provide to people if they inquire. We try not to make any strong recommendations or share too much information about ourselves because we like people to explore and have their own experience. But that's just something that comes up often, and I thought it would be helpful to share a little bit about that with you here. So we'll have some more videos coming out. We're going to just kind of, deconstruct the whole float experience and provide you with different pieces of information that might be helpful before and after your first float, and then also along your whole float journey. Just sharing some of the nuggets of wisdom that we've come across and different experiences from our float center here in St. Louis. So, tune in, continue to watch some of the other videos as they pop up, and reach out and let us know if you have any questions or anything specific that you'd like to hear from us. So until the next time, we'll see you soon.